Hey guys, I'm Chris.
And I'm Ash, and I'm coming to you from our garage here in the Dover area where we host a small group every Sunday morning.
If you're not in a small group, you're missing out. You need to get involved.
And if you want to be part of our group, we'd love to have you. We have breakfast at 9 in the morning, service starts at 10.
There's one thing we've learned.
You can't do life alone.
Let's go worship.
I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out, working all things out. Yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh, yes, I will. I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out, is working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all days. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all days. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all days. Nothing can stand against, and I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all days. Nothing can stand against. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. God, we thank you for this moment to worship, to sing songs to you, to listen to your heart as we are together in this moment. We love you.
You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies till all my
sing these songs, we're supposed to take in what we're saying and let it become a part of us. So as we just sing that song about being a child of God, how do we feel about our own children, and imagine that God feels the same about us. And so as we sing this last song, let's really bring it together with the words and how God would do anything to bring us back to Him. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, you never fail me yet. I know the night won't last, your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. Oh, yes, it will, yeah. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You never fail me yet. Yeah. See you move. Here we go. I see you move. You move the mountains. I believe I'll see it
confidence and to remember your faithfulness. You come through time and time again, and you'll do it again, and you'll do it again because you love us. And so I just pray today you remind us of your faithfulness. Everywhere we look, and we would see your faithfulness. We love you, and we give all our praise and honor and glory to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Greetings, fellow journeyers. Did you respond? We're really glad you're here. Welcome everybody meeting in groups all over the River Valley. Welcome to those of you that aren't yet in a group. If you haven't yet found your people to do life with, to study the scriptures with, to discuss, to grow with, to use your gifts, we want to help you get there. You can just contact us, call us at the office, 967-4810, send us an email, and we'd love to help you get into a group. We grow best when we're growing together. We're starting a new series this week, and we're doing it from Chris and Ashley Collins' garage. This is where we have group every week, and how cool is this? Like the best stage design we've had yet, right? 1200 Harley Sportster. I just want to sit on it and teach from over there. So if you guys don't know, okay, they're telling me I can't do that. We're starting a brand new series this week called Are You Happy Now? Now, I read an article as I was studying this week that was actually written back in June of 2020. It was talking about a study that was done at the University of Chicago that they do every year, and they just measure the level of happiness of Americans. And this is what the study found. That in June of 2020 of last year, or June of 2020, that Americans' happiness level was at the lowest it had been in 50 years. I know, right? Like, you would think that's a no-brainer. We're right in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. So that's not that surprising. All of our lives changed drastically last year. It affected our happiness. There were a couple interesting things found in the article, though, that might surprise you, because I was like, hey, that's very interesting. I wonder why that is. One thing was this. There was one guy they interviewed who was like from Florida. He had lost his job during the early parts of the pandemic, and he had lost his girlfriend during the early parts of the pandemic, and he said, I'm not happy. It figures, right? But the interesting thing was, he said, but now I've really had time to start looking inside, and I'm wondering if I was happy before that. Huh, interesting. Another thing that this study found is that there were some people, a certain percentage of Americans, who had gone through everything else that everybody else went through in 2020, and yet they said they were happier now than they were then. How's that work? That made me really start asking some questions. And over the next few weeks, I want us to really dive into that. Like, what is happiness? What do you think makes you happy? Or how about this? What do you think keeps you from being happy? Who or what currently controls or influences your happiness? How about this one? Why do some people seem to find it, discover it, or experience this thing called happiness in the same circumstances that you or I or those around us find ourselves in, and yet we are unhappy? And how might we help those that we love experience this thing we call happiness? How many of you think it'd be important to ask and answer those questions? Because I do. I think it's really important. And I honestly believe that God gives us the answers to these questions. And I want to spend the next few weeks looking at that, hopefully answering some of these things. But before we actually get into the Word and get into what I think and what I have to say, I want you guys to talk about it, all right? I want you to discuss happiness amongst yourselves. Here's what I really want you to do. Be as open and honest as you can, okay? No answer is the wrong answer at this point. It's just an answer. It's just the truth. The more honest you are, the greater growth you can experience as a result of the conversation and what we're about to learn. So be honest, have a good discussion, and we'll get back to you in just a second. Okay, we're back. How'd your discussion go? Did you figure out what happiness is, what makes you happy? What hurts your happiness? And all that jazz? Good. We're going to talk about it now. Because as we look at the world today, one of the reasons I want to talk about this is it's hard for me to find people who are truly happy. Like when I look at the world today, what's going on in all the world, watch the news, watch TV, watch the Academy Awards, the Oscars, watch anything, it feels like we're more divided than ever, right? Just get on social media. We're more vindictive than ever. We're more suspicious of one another than ever. We complain more than ever. We're jealous more than ever. It's as if we're living in a world where others have to bend to our will for us to be okay. They have to change something about them or that they're doing or not doing. They have to agree with us in order for us to be happy. Or we can't be happy if somebody has more than I have. If someone's liked more than I'm liked. If they have more friends, if they're married, or if they have kids, or if they went to a better school. How many of you kind of look at the world and you say, yeah, that seems about right? You guys know what I'm talking about then. I want to talk about happiness and how we can have it. What is happiness anyway? Because wouldn't you agree if we're going to talk about something, try to discover truths about it, we should agree upon what it means in the first place, right? So I looked up the word happiness and this is what it said. It said happiness is a state of well-being and contentment. That's what happiness is, a state of well-being and contentment. There's another part of the dictionary that just says joy. That's interesting. Tanya and I had a lot of conversation about happiness and joy this week. Or how about this? Satisfied with the quality or standard of life. Basically, it's this feeling of contentment or pleasure or satisfaction with the quality or standard of your life. Now, I think if we're all honest, satisfied and content to the point of feeling pleasure is a rarity in our culture today. It's not impossible because there are those that feel it. There are those that experience it. It's rare because most are not. But if it's possible but rare, what might some of them know that you and I don't? I heard Andy Stanley say something several years ago that stuck with me, and it struck me to my core. This is what he said. Check it out. He said, if you keep trying to be happy and you are not happy, maybe you don't know what will make you happy. Right? Like that seems obvious on its face. And if you keep trying to be happy and you're not happy, maybe you don't know what will make you happy. I was like, let that sink in. And instead of arguing it, let's just insert something else into any one of those, into that spot, okay? Because I don't think any of us would argue with statements like this. If you keep trying to fix your car and you aren't fixing your car, maybe you don't know how to fix your car. Yeah, sounds about right. Or if you keep trying marriage and you aren't staying married, perhaps you don't understand marriage. Or if you keep trying to adult and you're not good at adulting, perhaps you don't know how to adult. All of us would say, yeah, that's an easy thing to understand. Well, here's the truth. If you keep trying to be happy and you're not happy, maybe you don't know what will make you happy. That's why we're having the conversation. What does actually make us happy? I'd say since we don't know, we should look. I'm going to tell you a couple things about happiness, okay? Number one, that's not it. Number one, happiness is more about who than what. Happiness is more about who than what. It's more about who you are and you being okay with that. It's about who you are. It's more about who than what. It's about who you are and who you are with. Follow me here, okay? Who you are and who you're with is more important than what you have or what you're doing. And if you don't believe me, if you think I need some more context to that statement, here you go. I'd be willing to bet that the majority, if not the totality, of the happiest moments and memories in your life have more to do with the people who were present than where or even what you were doing. If I look back on some of the happiest moments of my life, I could have been by myself climbing a tree in the front yard of my house growing up. That's a memory that's burned into there. It was wonderful. Or hammocking out by the lake. It could be by yourself, it could be with other people, but you distinctly remember that. You're like, oh, that was the best. Hammocking out by the lake. The 3-day trail hike you took with a group of buddies or with some other couples, the camping trip with the couples back in September of 1974. Still burned in there. or your wedding day. Maybe not necessarily the leading up to it or the ceremony itself, but the wedding day is like, you look back, it was one of the greatest moments of my life because you got to start this life with your person, right? Maybe it was the cross-country road trip you took with family or friends. Maybe it's just as simple as the family meals you do every Sunday afternoon. See, happiness is always associated with a who or two. And if that's not true, then we could just get the next what and then we'd be happy. But that doesn't work. And here's why. Happy what always leads to a happy what's next. You know that's true. You think you can get the next thing and then you're going to be happy. And then you get the next thing and you're happy for a minute, 2 minutes, a month. We're never satisfied. Because here's what we know. Your new phone's going to be an old phone 12 months from now. Your old car was a new car 3 years ago. Your old wife or husband was a new one 10 years ago. Are you with me? So if an aging what deflates your happiness, you weren't happy to begin with. You were just a satisfied consumer or a satisfied customer. It was never really happiness. Some of the happiest people I know or have ever met in my whole life don't have anything close to what we have. But evidently they understand something we don't understand. See, how do you know that? Because they're happy, they're content, they're satisfied, they get pleasure out of life. Which leads to the question, how can they be happy when they don't have a big house? How can they be happy when they don't have a high-paying job or the ability to eat out anytime they want to or high-speed Wi-Fi for streaming? How can they be happy when they're looked down on by other people because they actually grew up in a country with a structured class system? How can they be happy? Well, they figured out something. That's not it. They figured out something. And it's that happiness is more about who than what. It's more about who than what. I've sat with many people and their families at the end of life and have never heard someone wish that they could spend more time with something that they possess. When you're spending your last days on this earth, you will have relational regrets, not possessional regrets. Because happiness is more about a who than a what. You won't be wishing you had more time with your car, your iPhone, your house, or your game system, but with people. And some of you might be pushing back on me right now because you don't like people. You've been hurt by people. You're going to live your life alone, so you can't be hurt. You might say that you don't need a who to be happy. And here's what I think about that. Give it lots of thought to it, all right? There are two kinds of people who say they don't need people to be happy. The first, those who have never been without people in their life. Because if you've never been without people in your life, you don't know what it's like to not have them. And I'm one of those people, okay? Like, it would be arrogant for me to say I don't need people in my life because I grew up in a great family. I now have a great family, love my wife, have great kids, have a lot of friends. You know, I've never known what it is to be without. So for me to say I don't know what it's like to not have them there. The second group of people, though, are those who feel unable to fix their isolation, so they tell themselves they're fine. Just don't know what to do. So I'm just fine. I don't need anybody. I'm a rock. I am an island. Because here's what I think happens to some of us. When we can't get what we want or need, we just tell ourselves we don't want or need it anyway. Which, honestly, that's a pretty good thing when it comes to things, right? I don't need a bigger house. I don't need a new car. I don't need all this stuff. To just be able to be content with what I have is a good thing. It just doesn't work when it comes to relationships. In many cases, it doesn't matter, but when it comes to relationships, it's vitally important Why? Because happiness is more about a who than a what. And furthermore, you were designed to find something meaningful that brings you happiness within relationship. So whenever I ask you guys a question this month, which I'm going to ask you probably over and over, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to respond a certain way. You guys ready? If I ever ask you what makes you happy, your response is no thing. So let's try it. What makes you happy? No thing. Because no thing can make you happy. However, there is something that every happy person has. Wouldn't you like to know what that is? No thing can make you happy, but there is something that every happy person has, and it's the secret sauce to having happiness, to possessing happiness, to experiencing happiness. It's actually not a thing, but they have it. Here's what it is. It's peace. Every happy person you ever meet, when you dig into it, what you're going to discover is they have peace. It's not some blanket peace. It's a very specific peace. And it's a specific peace in 3 different relationships related to whose. Because happiness is more about a who than a what. Happy people have peace. Said another way, look at this. Happy people are at peace with themselves. They're at peace with themselves. What does that mean? It means that on the inside, they are fine. They are content. They are satisfied with who they are. With their honesty with themselves. Happy people are at peace, and happy people are at peace with themselves. And it doesn't matter who they are. When you find a happy person, it doesn't matter if they're rich or poor. They're happy. Why? Because they're at peace with themselves. It doesn't matter if they're old or young, male or female. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're rich, poor, an introvert, an extrovert, married, single, kids, no kids, big house, little house, no house, car, bicycle. It doesn't matter. They're at peace. They're okay with themselves. They are content. They aren't trying to be something they aren't. They aren't trying to get something from someone else or make somebody else bend to their will or to their ways. They're just okay with themselves. Can you say that about you? Maybe the reason you're not happy is because you're not at peace with yourself. Maybe you thought it was about your circumstances. Maybe you thought it was about the house. No, it starts with being at peace with yourself. The Apostle Paul said something in Philippians that I find fascinating. Listen to this. He says, Philippians 4:11, "Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have." Another version says, "I'm not talking to you about this because I have a need," or, which he did, by the way. He was just saying, this isn't why I'm saying it, because I have a need and I'm wanting something. "Not that I was ever in need, for I have learned to be content with whatever I have." I have learned to be content. Can we say the same thing? Because here's what you'll find. Happy people can say the same thing. They are at peace with themselves. That was me. Happy people have peace. Not only with themselves, but check this out. Happy people are at peace with other people. I would be willing to bet that at least 50% of our unhappiness comes from our lack of peace with others. Husband, wife, kids, ex, teacher, administration, boss, co-worker, other political party, specific person on Facebook. My lack of peace steals my happiness. Happy people are at peace with others. Happy people aren't bitter about somebody else. They don't hold grudges. They easily forgive. They aren't churning on the inside because of something someone else did or something someone else said or something someone else failed to do. They're just at peace with others. Blessed are the peacemakers. Blessed, oh, the blessedness of, the happiness of is what the word means. We're going to get into all that later. I jumped ahead. They're at peace with others. Happy people are at peace with themselves. Happy people are at peace with other people. And lastly, look at this. Most happy people are at peace with God. I say most here because I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of arguing whether or not you can be truly happy without a relationship with God. But most of the people I've ever met who are truly happy and at peace because they're not only at peace with themselves, they're at peace with others, and they've made peace with God. I'm just content. I'm satisfied. I know who I am, and I know He is good. I know He made me. I know how I respond to others as God responded to me. Most happy people are at peace with God. I believe over the 48 years of experience I have on this earth that most people who are truly happy have made peace with God. So as we went through all that, I want you to notice three things. There are three who's involved in all of this. Because happiness is more about a who than a what. There's the you who, the other who, and the God who. Happy people are at peace with themselves, they're at peace with others, and they're at peace with God. Happiness is more about a who than a what. And follow me here. Anything that undermines your peace undermines your happiness. Anything that undermines your peace with yourself undermines your happiness. Anything that undermines your peace with others will undermine your happiness. Anything that undermines your peace with God will undermine your happiness. If you want to know why you're not happy, it's nothing out there. It all starts right here. Me having peace with myself, with others, and with God. Anything that undermines your peace undermines your happiness. Now let's be honest, as we're wrapping this thing up. As we look back on our own lives, can we pinpoint times when our decisions or our choices undermined our relationship with God? Caused conflict? Can we be honest and look at our lives and pinpoint times when our decisions or choices undermined our relationship with someone else? Even caused us to question our own selves, or we weren't at peace with ourselves. Because if you say, yeah, I can see that. I did that. I remember that. Yeah, see, those are called regrets. Because it undermines your peace with either God, yourself, or with others. We go back, we'd love to redo it because it undermined our peace during that time. Maybe even still today, we ourselves participated in undermining our own happiness because of the decisions that undermined our peace with God, ourselves, or others. Undermine our own happiness. So here's a premise I want to build on from this point going forward. Okay? Peace with God paves the way to peace with ourselves and equips us to make peace with others. Peace with God paves the way to peace with ourselves and equips us to make peace with others. Say, Steve, what do you want me to do with that? Here's what I want you to do with that. I want you to write that down. I'm going to leave it up there. Write it down right now. I want you to put it on your mirror, where you put on your makeup, where you do your hair. Put it on the rearview mirror in your car so you can look at it every time you go to work. If you go to school, put it on your locker. So every time you open your door, you see it. I want every single person to read that every day this week. Peace with God paves the way to peace with ourselves and equips us to make peace with others. Why do I want you to look at it? Because I believe it's true. And I believe God created you to experience contentment and peace. He's created you to experience true happiness. So I want that to marinate in your heart this week. I want you to write it out, put it somewhere you see it every day, and then think about it. And then I want you to ask yourself this question. Which relationships are holding back your peace? Okay? Is it your relationship with God? Is it your relationship with yourself? Are you lacking peace with yourself and who you are and your identity? With who God made you? Is your beef with God? Is it with yourself? Is it with others? What's undermining your peace and therefore undermining your happiness? Where is the conflict or tension? And then when we come back next week, we'll talk about that and see how we're going to deal with it. Because here's what I believe God wants us all to be able to say. I have learned to be content with whatever I have. Why? Because I am at peace with myself, with others, and with God. The rest is irrelevant. Are you with me? Guys, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we love you. We're so grateful for this day, for the time we've had together. Thank you for an incredible time of worship. Thank you for your word, which isn't just given to inform us, but to transform us. Thank you that your plans for us are to prosper us, not to harm us, to give us hope and a future, and that you have created us to just live in a world where, in spite of our circumstances, we find contentment, peace, and joy. Lead us into that. We choose to be people who follow because we want the life and life to the full Jesus came to bring. And it's in his name that we ask these things. And everyone who agrees with that prayer says, amen.